Hello, I'm April Perry with LearnDoBecome.com, and today we're going to talk about what we can do to avoid procrastination. Now, a lot of times we end up with projects or different tasks that are on our shoulders that feel totally overwhelming, and then when you go to bed at night, your brain is swirling with ideas and you feel like you're just so tired of having way too much to do. So I'm going to share a couple ideas that have worked for us. Number one is when we defer something, that's not the same thing as procrastinating. If there's something that isn't right to do right now, this isn't the time for it, that's totally okay, and we can deliberately defer. So here is an example. We have this little post-it note that our 7-year-old wrote called dog walking business. This is the task. He wants to set up a dog walking business. Well, right now really isn't the perfect time. We're about to head out of town for a family reunion, and his room is kind of in shambles and needs some help. So this is going to be deferred. So what I'm going to do is actually go into my paper planner. I use that for my tasks. Go out 3 weeks from today when I know we'll be back from our trip. Everything's going to be great. The room should be clean. And then my husband and I can talk about whether this dog walking business is going to happen, or maybe if we have a different idea for our son's entrepreneurial efforts. Okay, so that's one little example. When you're deferring, you can also use something like your calendar, Google Calendar, iCal, something like that to manage a trigger that will email itself to you. That will be wonderful. Or there's a new service that I really like called followupthen.com, where you can email an idea or forward an email to an address and it'll send it back in a couple hours, weeks, months, whenever you decide. So little tip there. All right, second, once you've gotten to the day when you're going to work on a task or project, it's already been deferred or you actually are going to work on it right now, a lot of times it feels super overwhelming. For example, this is a folder with a lot of hospital bills. We had a child who was in the hospital for a while, and so we had about 4 times as many papers come to us in the mail, and it felt super overwhelming, so I didn't even want to deal with any of it. Well, finally I realized I hadn't identified the very next action. So what I did is I looked at this project and looked at all the papers and thought, well, actually I kind of talked to my husband a little bit and asked him for some advice. What do I do with all this? And he suggested that I just put everything into a spreadsheet and just figure out what are all of the bills, what are the ones that have issues, who do I need to speak with at the insurance company, that type of thing. So I spent about 35 minutes to an hour putting together a really simple spreadsheet that helped me get rid of a ton of these papers and figure out that the very, very next actions are actually quite simple. Now we just have a couple of bills that we need to go pay, everything else taken care of, and it actually worked out really well. So if you have things that are on your mind, if you're feeling a little overwhelmed by all the stuff coming at you, deferring them in a smart way and then identifying really specific next actions is really helpful, and I hope it works for you as well.